I'm Andy Plump. I am the head of R&D at Takeda. I've been here for just over 4 years. I'm a physician scientist and I love what I do. I'm a deep believer in mentorship, and in fact, I've had several over the course of my career. And in fact, as a vignette, when I joined Takeda in this role as R&D head, it was quite a step for me from a leadership and from a professional development standpoint. And my first thought was, I need people to help me. And I turned to a group of 4 people who I've worked with at various points in my life, 2 of whom were managers of mine, people I had worked for at various times. And the first thing I did is I asked them to join me on an advisory board to serve as both mentors for me, but also to help me. And the first thing that I told them when I asked them to sign on is that they always had to be 100% direct and honest with me and tell me when I was wrong. I think one of the biggest challenges that we have in positions like this is that people are afraid to challenge you and to speak up to you. And the most important thing a mentor can do for me is just be really direct and really honest. Sometimes you lose perspective in these roles, and a trusted mentor can easily bring that perspective back to you. So that's been really great. I think for me, sometimes I get going quickly. And, I have a million thoughts and I go a million miles an hour. I think for me, the thing that mentors have been the most helpful on is have been having me stop, just pause and slow down and really take the time to think. And as I've gotten, grown and grown, I was going to say older and older, but I feel like I get younger and younger in my job. But as I've grown in my career, I realized that where I can add the most value is not in going fast and not in trying to answer all the questions, but in really slowing down, projecting out several years and just thinking. I think that's where I can do the most good for this organization. One of the challenges that we face in the world we live in trying to drive innovation to patients is that innovation, real innovation, transformative innovation is very sporadic, and it's spread out. It's not like every month we have a new finding or a new result that's going to change patients' lives. So we're one of the largest pharma companies in the world. We're now a top 10 pharma company. We're huge. Our pipeline is really large, but those real, true, transformative moments occur infrequently. And so for me, it's not so much about that moment where you've made that next big medicine. It's the smaller moments. It's the smaller pieces. It's about the people. When you're sitting in a room and there's a conversation that's occurring and you can feel the quality of the dialogue. You can feel when there's differing opinions. You can see within an environment that you've helped to create that there's a tension, but it's a good tension, and people are able to really get ideas out there, and you work together to driving towards a solution. When you see someone develop, when you see someone that you've worked with, and we all have our development needs, but when you see someone able to overcome one of those development needs, it's those small moments, those opportunities that you have to watch people grow. Those are by far the best. I can remember when I first joined the industry and I was leading a study for an Alzheimer medication. This was in 2002, shortly after I joined the industry. And, we were going into a first in human study. And, years before we'd ever know whether this medicine had any potential in Alzheimer's disease. And I remember seeing some data for the first time for this molecule, the first time ever in a human, which happens now a lot. There's a lot of first in humans, but the first time ever seeing data, and it was just pharmacokinetic data. So did the molecule even get in? And what was its distribution in plasma. It was so exciting. So I think for us, especially given the marathon that we're on when we make a new medicine, it's each of those individual moments that are really the ones that I remember. I think the biggest misconception about leaders is that they have all the answers. In fact, the best leader has none of the answers. The best leader creates an environment and a culture that inspires people and allows people to develop and to answer their own questions. And I think what's important as a leader is to create a framework for an organization to work within, to help to create a culture and an environment that helps to lift people up and to make people feel a part of things, but to answer as few questions as possible. I think judgment is a really important piece, but not necessarily answers. So being a top leader in an organization can absolutely be isolating. It's lonely at the top. So how do you then prevent yourself from becoming out of touch? The first is to never think of yourself as being different, to never think that you know more, that you're different from anybody around you. That only goes so far because people still consider you different because of the authority and the power that you have in these positions. So what's really important is not trying to insert yourself and make the kinds of decisions that you shouldn't be making, but really pushing those decisions to the right people. I love interacting and mingling in informal situations. I love poster sessions where you go up to a scientist, the scientist owns the poster, knows more than you'll ever imagine knowing about a topic, and then engaging. Because it level sets when you're at a poster and you're watching a scientist walk through his or her science. And that level setting over 10 or 15 minutes creates then the relationship. Then you could start to ask questions about what's going on in the organization, and having developed that trust, you're able to learn so much more. The other piece that we talked about earlier was around mentorship and bringing in outside perspective where there isn't an agenda, where your authority and leadership have really have no reverberations, and bringing in that perspective, I think that really helps to keep you level set. And then the last thing, not just mentors, but spending more and more time outside the walls of your organization. When you're in your organization as a leader, it's easy to become inflated in terms of your sense of self. When you wander out there, particularly in Boston, and you see how many amazing individuals there are and how many people are so accomplished, you start to realize that you're just one of many. It's very level setting. If you want to be a leader in the healthcare industry, it's really easy. Do the right thing. And we pick up the newspapers every day and we see bad behavior. We see things that destroy the reputation of an industry that should have an amazing reputation. When you think about what we're trying to do for the world, it's just remarkable. But so often we get carried away by our ambition or our greed. That's not doing the right thing. You have to always do the right thing. Remember that you're dealing with people. Remember that you're no different than they are. Just do the right thing. The other piece that I'll mention is that you can go out and you could read about leadership principles. You can bring in consultants or experts that will talk about leadership principles. And I think that both are good, right? To be a good leader, you need to practice and train. It's not something that is 100% natural. There's a proclivity to being a leader, but there are also elements that you need to perfect and train. But the reality is that whatever you read, whatever a consultant or an expert tells you, it's all the same. Different words, different constructs, different diagrams to define how they want you to understand it, but it's all the same. And it's all about working with people and understanding that you're dealing with human beings and you're dealing with emotions. And so how do you lead understanding that you're dealing with human emotion? Do the right thing and always recognize that you're dealing with people.